We will call this meeting of the Burlington Community School District order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, is there a motion for adoption of agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Public comments. We're at the public comments section. If there's any public comments. No. No. Okay. Seeing none. Consent agenda.
With Greg's permission, I've been given the the sheet tonight. I move to approve the consent agenda, including payments of bills previously paid in the amount of $2,131,059.29, and unpaid bills in the amount of $2,366,908.68.
Is there a second?
A second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Did you have a question for Lucy?
I already talked to her.
Oh, well then, great. Seeing no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion passes. We don't have a student representative report for the night, and so we'll move into superintendent's report.
All right, good evening, everybody. Well, today we had our 9th grade orientation going on at the high school for some students. Was able to get over there, and it was a little bit rainy at that point, so a little bit of a late arriving crowd, but had a good schedule for them. They got to meet a lot of different faculty members. I also was able to meet with Junior Achievement today and spent a lot of time with them. I know they're in several of our schools and trying to talk about how we can increase that a little bit in our schools and maybe get grade-wide content going on. Also, we got invited to see with Mark Perna. He's a big leader in our CTE programming across the country, and he's actually going to be local here, so we're going to I'll be able to visit with, or not visit, well, I'll visit with him, but I get to see his program on, I think it's the 19th, coming up in 2 weeks, and but he's a big CTE. I've worked closely with him before, so I'm excited, and then I know Brian Johnson's going to get over there also. And then was able to meet with the TAG teachers. Had a lot of good visit with them about some of our programming and things that we can do to increase our opportunities as we're going. And had a very successful job fair. We talked a little bit about the last board meeting, but Lacey and her group did a great job, and it was a fun time for all. We had several administrators at SAI. If you were following the Burlington superintendent, Twitter, you got to see a couple of our pictures, but we actually had our legal counsel, Matt Carver, jump in and photobomb us at one time, so that was kind of fun. And then finally, I was able to stop over at United Way, or at the United Way Kickoff luncheon, and a lot of our teachers, a lot of our staff really support that, so we'll have that stuff going out. And finally, our new staff picnic, I think, is this Friday. Lacey, am I saying that right? Corey, yep, sounds Friday, down at the stadium. Around 12:30, so you want to come down, and I'm hearing that I'm grilling. We're still, Corey and I are arm wrestling, but I think I'm going to lose, and I'm going to be grilling on that day, so we'll see you down there, and that's all I have.
All right. Is there any questions for Mr. Scott? All right. Seeing none, I wanted to stop just right now for a moment. I had just in getting through the agenda had just forgot what I wanted to open the meeting with. Wanted to just take a moment of silence for one of our students who passed away over the weekend. And again, I apologize for not starting with the meeting, but just a moment of silence before we move on with the meeting, please. right, just so everyone knows, any staff or any students, there's resources available, people to talk to. If you need help, please reach out. The help is available, so. All right, let's move on. The committee reports are in the agenda tonight, so I don't think we have any separate committee reports tonight. So we will just move straight ahead to the Esser status report. Tim decided not to come in person. I think he wants to be done with his part of the meeting when he's done speaking. Tim, welcome.
Oops.
There you are.
There, can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
and I'm gonna put up my screen, just a second. So the monthly status report was distributed with the board packet. I reviewed it, and really, I guess the summary of this report is that we're working hard with a lot of personnel on the site. I think the contractors are doing a good job. The work is of a high quality, and I define that as a high level of workmanship and high compliance with the contract and document requirements. We're not exactly on schedule, but we're going to make the objectives that we had for this summer overall. There's a couple things that we've now deferred to next summer. One is either next summer or next spring break. That would be the replacement of the controllers on the existing HVAC equipment, and the chilled water coils that were planned to be replaced this summer are going to be done next summer because we currently do not have them in hand. There's not enough time, even if they come in now, to get them installed. So we're going to be running on the old coils until next summer, which is should not degrade the performance of the system. We'll just replace the coils next summer. We processed a few change orders this month. We still are overall on budget, and we've essentially increased our contingency by $35,000. So we have $728,000 worth of a contingency left in the job. We started with $693, so we've net been credited to the job. So we're in good shape on contingency. So I define that as on budget. We processed 4 change orders this month, relatively minor. The description of those is in the distribution in the report. Pay requests are submitted and are being processed. I guess I'll answer any questions you have on the progress of Esser in July.
Questions? Hey, Tim.
Yes, sir.
I thought it was worthwhile noting, if you just wouldn't mind mentioning your surprise safety inspection. I think went very well, and if you just want to talk about that briefly. So.
Yeah, we enrolled the program in a program that's a joint venture between Iowa OSHA and the Master Builders of Iowa called WorkSafe, and that program has surprise inspections on projects. It's a voluntary program, but there's surprise inspections conducted by either OSHA of Iowa or Master Builders of Iowa. We had one a week ago Friday. They're very thorough in these inspections. We had one a grinder that did not have with the exception of that one thing. They did not find any other issues on the job with regard to safety. And I'm happy to report that we have not had any injuries on the project at all. And I think that's a testament to the diligence of the contractors that are working on it. And we see a high level of compliance with safety rules on the project. So I wasn't totally surprised by that, but it is not an announced inspection. It is a surprise inspection.
I just think it's worthwhile commending the contractors and also Carl Nelson's work and supervision of the work, ensuring that we have a safe environment for the workers and for staff and students in the building. So thank you.
yeah, this is exceedingly important to us. It's important to the district, and it's important that everyone goes home the way they came to work. So this is a high priority of ours, and a safe job, in my view, is a productive job, is a job that's high quality. So I see those all going hand in glove.
Tim, this came up at the Facilities Committee meeting, but just for the whole board to hear. Even with the work that's going to be delayed until next summer, there's no, you're not foreseeing any impact that we would need to change our calendar, that all the work will be able to be done over a regularly scheduled summer?
Yes, we don't see any reasons why the calendar's not good for this summer nor next summer, that we should be able to get all the work done as planned. I just want to point out that there's an HVAC commissioning program that we're doing on this project that's always been planned. And what it is a third party that comes in and facilitates a quality control process for the HVAC system. And we're in the middle of doing that now. So there's tons of checklists and things that are checked on every piece of equipment. And that's in process now. We always planned that process would probably need to continue, and it will after school starts, but there should not be any disruptions to the education in the building by that process. There's also some work that we can do while school's in session, and we will be doing that after school starts, but it's not in student or faculty areas and should not be noticeable to any occupants in the building.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Well, Tim, thank you. We will move on now to the save.
We just asked that the board approve that.
Oh,
status report.
is there a motion to approve the status report as presented?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion passes. All right, now we will turn it over to the SAVE project. So,
all right, so more than just numbers. Thanks for having us tonight. We hopefully have a little bit more than the last time that you guys have seen the, we've sort of quit calling it the SAVE project, and now we're calling it additions and renovations, because most people in the community don't know what SAVE is, even though that's, you know, a measure of their tax money that's being spent on the funds. We kind of internally said we should just call it additions and renovations, and the project that Tim just talked through, we're calling the air quality improvements. But the last time that many of you saw any kind of update on this project, it was still in the context of the bigger master plan. So we want to bring you up to speed with where we're at. So Jordan, do you want to just click ahead to introductions?
Yeah, hey John, I'm just working through a quick technical thing here.
No problem. So on the part of introductions, we've got 3 Bray team members online joining from various locations. If you guys want to just introduce yourselves real quick.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Jordan O'Connor, one of the architects with Bray. I'm out of the Milwaukee office. Working hand in hand with the rest of the team here to keep everything on track for the construction document portion of the project. Seen and worked with a few of you now, so look forward to working with the rest of you. Thanks for having me.
I'm Stephanie Veerling. I'm interior design manager at Bray, and I'm one of 2 interior designers on this project, and we're excited about the way it's coming together, and we're happy to be able to show you some of those things tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Yeager, Senior Project Specialist for Bray Architects. Nice to meet you all. Hope you're having a nice evening.
Since Tim just talked, we'll let his introduction stand with the prior report. So jumping forward, we tend to talk about the project in phases. So as I mentioned, we have the air quality improvement project that's happening now. We had an overarching master planning project, and now What we're working on is the additions and renovations. So these are the specific projects that are a single improvement to the high school, which is a combination of both additions and renovations. If you recall in the timeline, which we've sort of condensed into an easier view, the original master plan took us to early this year. So thinking back to, I believe it was like February or March when we wrapped that up and started to look towards what that phase 2 additions, renovations, scope of work recommendation was. We have taken the summer to work on a lot of coordinated efforts to get this planning down. During this time, that air quality improvement project commenced construction, so a lot of work happened through the summer. That is integral to the work that's going to happen through the additions renovations project. We are on target for the construction work to bid this winter with a start of construction early next spring. The idea being that if we can get this to bid in the just after the first of the year, that's a good competitive time for pricing. That would give time to start placing orders for longer lead time pieces of equipment. The heavy construction on this would start in the summer, and Tim actually has a longer schedule, which we can always call out in a little bit, but essentially the construction is going to be done in phases so that you can both occupy the building for educational purposes and complete the construction sequentially. So it is going to be a lengthy project that takes us into 2023.
Hey, John, I think Greg wanted me to cover that phasing briefly. So wherever that fits into your presentation, I can do that.
Okay, why don't we push that to the end and get through some of the the pretty parts, and then we'll go back to that. I only say that because the phasing is an ugly mess, and it's going to be a pain to live with. So, Jordan, you want to go ahead and click forward? So the last time we would have looked at this, we would have had this overall site plan that showed the campus, and we had projected out pieces that were additions, pieces that were renovations. Essentially, what's in red is not being constructed. What's in green is where the construction work is, which is intensive remodeling and renovation of the 2-story classroom wing, enclosing that what is now breezeway connection between the main building and the IA building, and then putting on a fitness addition right in back behind the current safe room. And so then if we jump into floor plan view, what you see is then all of the building that is colored in blue is renovation areas. So there's an overall plan that illustrates the areas on the first floor on the left, second floor on the right. This is where we're focusing intensive remodeling. The piece in red connecting the two buildings is our enclosed corridor. The piece in red off to the left is the new addition of the fitness area, and then you'll actually see kind of a new call to a front entry at the courtyard area.
Just real quickly, Jordan, if we can, for the folks at home, I enjoy looking at all your lovely faces. Is there a way you can just expand the diagram for the folks at home to see while you're presenting this?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're seeing on your end. I'm kind of
your
maxing.
whole Windows update. If you can go to present mode.
Yeah, what was happening when I was in present mode.
No problem.
Yeah, we don't want to lose you. So.
I don't know what happened there, but so it's just going to the wrong window on my desktop, unfortunately. So let me try one more thing here. I don't know if this helped anything.
My computer people.
That looks good, Jordan. It's bigger.
Did this help? Did this help a little bit? Okay.
It did. So, that being said, I'm going to turn this over to Jordan to kind of start walking you through this with some assistance from Stephanie and Steve. We'll get you a little bit more understanding of what this project entails.
Now, unfortunately, oh, here we go. Okay. Thank you, John. And I will just echo the fact that this is definitely the pretty part of the presentation. So no offense, Tim. All right. So real generally speaking, this is kind of just a breakdown of what we just looked at. Steve Yeager, I'm happy to introduce here he can kind of shed light on, kind of some of the main areas of the building here, but it's color coded, very nice and straightforward to help you kind of reference or get bearings within the actual space of the existing school. But take it away, Steve.
Sure. What you're seeing here is both the first floor and the second floor of the academic part of the school that has the most heavy renovation, and it is color coded to the academic departments. So, for example, on the first floor south end, you see a block of yellow that are classrooms, general classrooms, right? Mathematics, English, foreign language. And then just to the left of that yellow block, you'll see where the general office or the administrative office suite is going to be relocated adjacent to a secure entrance. Then in the center, the center of the first floor, you'll see kind of an orangish area, which represents the library, which is surrounded by a couple of classrooms, general classrooms, the student services suite. To the right of that, where the existing administrative offices presently are located, we have some special ed classrooms, particularly the Beck and BD special ed classrooms, as well as the school nurse. The north end of the first floor is our special ed classrooms, the business department, graphic arts classroom, and a couple more general classrooms. On the right side of this image, the second floor at the south end, you'll see in blue, a brand new science department with 6 new science labs, which includes physics. Also the health sciences department or suite of rooms for health science. In the center, again, the second floor of the library in orange, surrounded by a couple more general classrooms. And finally, at the north end of the second floor in yellow, you'll see another grouping of general classrooms, which surround a collaboration space, which is open, free-flowing space to facilitate more casual learning environments. So I think I ought to let you move along to the next slide after that.
Very good. So now kind of coming from kind of the floor plan view, we've got the floor plan key off to the left, but we're excited to show you some very preliminary interior views of the space, kind of how it's becoming developed. So here, as you can see, first floor, we're kind of looking into the kind of the new entrance to the library as we're going to expand that with glass. And let Stephanie take it away with some of the main or some of the overall guiding principles here for kind of how the design is coming together.
Sure, and like Jordan said, we're still developing the finish. His presentation isn't going to be for about another week here, but so this is sort of a tone-on-tone image. But we were excited to be able to connect the library to the corridor and then that block of classrooms down to the south. And so now you can kind of see the activity that's happening inside the library there, just opening up that space to the rest of the academic area a little bit more. If you go to the next slide, here's inside the library. So we've got all new lighting in here, some architectural features you start to see developing, all new finishes. So changing this space, refreshing it a little bit. And of course, it's a little bit different shape than it was with the connections to the rooms just adjacent here. Here's our new secure entrance, and I'll let Steve talk a little bit about how this space was developed and what's new in this space.
Sure. This is the very southwest corner of the first floor. So it's nearest to the large parking lot south of the building, and that's where we want the public to enter the building, especially at this secure entrance that would monitor who's coming into your building. That corner presently has window walls, and I should say the window walls in the entire building are being replaced. So you can see here that corner has the doors to the south, some glass towards the courtyard to the west, and an entrance canopy, which we're going to jump forward to in a little bit. And once you're in the secure entrance, Stephanie?
Yep. So we actually have this, the next slide isn't actually the admin space, and we'll look at that in a second. But yeah, once you're inside here, it's just nice. We added a couple architectural features here to make this a little bit more friendly and inviting. That connection of the window between this space and the folks working in reception there, and the monitor. So just a couple architectural features to add a little bit more interest to that space. Here, you can see one of the collaboration areas that Steve was speaking about earlier. So these are the spaces that are sort of spill out from the classrooms, and they can be used for a variety of activities. So different groupings of furniture and things, some small group instruction spaces. But you can start to see the idea of some of the ceiling features we're planning, and some of the new lighting that would go into this space. Very dynamic, interesting, engaging spaces. Here's another one, and from this view, you're actually standing in the corridor, as you can see with that purple arrow there. So we're breaking down some of that wall between the corridor and these collaboration zones to allow that sort of free flow of people in and out of the space, just opening up that area a little bit.
I can speak to the science if you don't mind.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Sure, no problem. This is just one example of, well, there are 4 large science labs that are nearly identical. So that's kind of what we're seeing in the 3-dimensional image. Then there's a 5th science classroom that's a little bit modified, little smaller than these large, and the 6th being a physics room adjacent to the library. But these 4 science labs are fully equipped with gas, water, science casework, everything for a modern and efficient science laboratory. So, pretty good space.
Likewise, health science, this suite of rooms, I think there's 3 here that are all attached, and they're, again, completely new. And what I'd like to draw your attention to is these connecting, they kind of look darker in this photograph, sliding glass doors. So all those spaces are connected, but can be kind of broken up again if individual classes need to happen, or they can be completely connected. So again, like Steve said, completely new learning space for the students and staff here in health science.
Very interesting program you have there. Very nice.
Mm-hmm. All right, and so for admin reception, this is in a new space, right, Steve, that it's moved, you mentioned. And so just a good location for this. And then also we're excited about the development of this space too. Really, this is meant to be a really welcoming, friendly, inviting space that will kind of support your Burlington brand. So we're looking forward to continuing to develop this space, but your admin reception desk here you can see with a good amount of storage and you can sort of see the connection between that secure entry that we saw a couple slides ago all the way up to this new space as well.
All right, we're going to kind of take you from the inside to the outside now a little bit to talk about kind of the three new addition elements, so you can get a feel kind of for what the kind of the impact from this street is going to be. A couple mentions about kind of the new main entry and kind of the secure entry portion. That's the enlarged plan here now in the upper right is to kind of zoom in a little bit to kind of see what's happening there a little bit. And the next image then is going to kind of show our initial concept for kind of how this legible entrance is going to feel coming from that parking lot. So coming here, most of the other plaza elements will remain, even trying to keep those two nice, beautiful trees there. Working a way to create this plaza that has, a legible sign entry with Burlington High School to kind of, really kind of create that gateway and have that legible main entrance. Thoughts on, keeping the separate events entry off to the back left of kind of the plaza courtyard area is intended to remain right now with successful branding, that's actually placed on the windows is intended to kind of remain in place or in kind, maybe it's an updated graphic, but this kind of one-stop hub for kind of the main entries to the building is gonna, we're really starting to see the benefits of what that will be long-term. Now kind of going back around to the other side right now where, as you all know, kind of we have the covered sidewalk that connects the main academic building and the industrial arts component. So coming around, what we're gonna see here is get to show you what it looks like kind of from the east, trying to keep kind of that the feeling of openness along that route was very important to us when we were exploring kind of the design possibilities. So lots of glass that kind of opens up to the east will give students and faculty kind of a similar feel from how they currently traverse that from building to building, but making it much more comfortable and enclosed, to do that is definitely advantageous. Next image will show what it looks like kind of from the interior connection across that existing courtyard space.
It'll be nicer in January.
Yes, indeed. I didn't realize until just a little while ago that you were walking in this space all open there. And I thought, oh my goodness, what a change that's going to be. So that will be fabulous.
Yep.
But yeah, like Jordan said, it's nice that we've, included those windows in this space. I think this would be a neat place potentially for some branding here. But broken up the ceiling a little bit with some clouds, some nice lighting in here, a little bit of depth on that windowsill there that if this corridor starts to feel a little bit too long, you can sit down and take a break on the next to the window there.
And then we're going to kind of give you a quick little tour of kind of the way on the opposite end, kind of the whole fitness center addition that is out over on the west side, kind of by the existing tennis courts. So kind of the zoomed in plan there kind of shows this rectangular, basically everything there is an addition component to the space accessed from a couple points of entry from the exterior as well as, through the school itself, kind of down that passageway before you get to the wrestling and the storm shelter component of the school. So the first image we're going to show you is kind of indicated off to the left, looking at the new addition kind of from the north sidewalk area. Really fun, kind of getting to see this develop. A couple main underlying goals of this was to incorporate, very similar building materials as what's currently on the school so that it can kind of stand alone as an addition. It doesn't look like kind of this whole brand new thing, but at the same time, create kind of its own identity with, kind of the little modernizing of the aesthetic. So we, kind of increase the height of it, incorporate a lot of nice glass that kind of mimics back to the kind of the curtain wall window elements that you have around the current building. and then kind of this cool, this precast concrete looking arch that kind of surrounds it, just really puts a kind of a modern stamp on how this this addition kind of will feel coming off of the face of it. The next image is how our design team has been, exploring this from a night vision perspective, where we've been exploring using, cool LED lights to really bring in the branding, kind of the school colors, and you can see the branding on the back wall. Really looking for ways to, like I said, previously, make a stamp and really kind of bring the Burlington brand front and center from kind of this new perspective, where previously there's not a whole lot of exciting activity happening from the exterior perspective. And then the last image, then I'll kind of jump ahead, kind of from an interior view of what the fitness edition will look like. Starting to explore, you can see what this space really will feel like with the massive amounts of natural light coming in, and how productive that is for a space like this, and kind of using some of the weights and the setup of the space. All in all, very large, useful, meant to be multi-purpose from weights and phy-ed, and the cheer program, kind of having a space large enough for all those functions to kind of take place in the same place is really kind of making a cool impact on where the school is headed. So I'm happy to field any questions, or if there's any other comments from the Bray team, I'd love to hear them, or be able to kind of walk you through or give you any insight as to where things are at. Otherwise, we've got some kind of just other next steps that I know, Tim talking about phasing and kind of the outlook for the next couple months as well.
I guess, Jordan, before we jump forward with that, is a real quick recap of where we've been before we talk about what's next. But as I mentioned before, we've worked through the whole summer. You've got an amazing district staff. Literally everyone in this building has been available through the whole summer for meetings. So when you hear us talk about user groups, those are the departments within the high school. That's teaching staff, the admin team. Corey and Jay have been a part of this whole process. We have, for most sessions, hour-and-a-half long sessions. We break them into time segments. We have a standing meeting that either Corey or Monica issues out to whichever department we're meeting with. That shows up as an invitation. I usually show up at the high school. We have a bunch of people online, and it's a both live and online event where we talk in great detail about the various aspects of the building, so that the rooms that we show on the plan have the right size and placement. We know the teaching equipment is correct, the setup of desks is correct, where power should be, making sure we understand door placements and the like. So that's been a kind of a lengthy process, but it's helped inform how the building shapes to respond to the teaching needs in the building. The big steps that have been made is by moving that administrative office to where it's shown on the plan does give you the opportunity to create a new secure entry sequence. So that also allows us to separate a secondary student entrance that's secure student entry after the start of the day, so we can provide really good secure control of the building for both students and visitors alike. It does reinforce the primary south entry that everybody wants to think is the main office entry anyway. It provides definition to that. By vacating that entire portion of the building where the office used to be, when it moves, it vacates there. That actually provides adequate space that we can handle all of our special education needs there and elsewhere in the building. Part of what gets created is a behavioral development suite. So we now have space to handle that in this building appropriately with the right measures of separation and privacy and control that aren't as easily done in the current building. Departmentally, moving through this building, things do change position in it, and it looks a little different, but having the opportunity to work through with staff has been beneficial. I guess real quick, just Jordan, if you want to flash that next slide. We do have, there's an open house at the high school in a couple of weeks. We'll have a presentation that would be available for people that are touring the school. We'll actually work with Savannah from the district to make sure that that's a digital presentation that everybody can access and get more excited about the changes to the high school. We will continue to work with these user groups, and we are pushing towards a completion of our end of work in December, which transitions to Tim's end of things in December, January with a spring 23 commencement. I would like to have Tim spend a little time kind of just talk about the budget and the schedule. The schedule is, as I mentioned, not easy. This is an interesting one because we have to both occupy the building and construct in it, and so it'll take a little bit of effort.
Can you see my screen okay now? It's a schedule, more detailed schedule.
No, we cannot. I think Jordan has to stop sharing.
There we go.
Give it a try now, Tim. That looks better.
There we go. Okay, so primarily, we went over this at the committee meeting, and I wanted to talk a little bit about phasing and scheduling. So, and what we're about now is the SAVE project work. I don't have the Esser work on here, but the Esser work will be completed by the end of summer of 23, which is next summer. At the beginning of next summer, 23, we would start the first phase of work. And roughly, we've got this work divided up into 7 phases. If you think about the 2-story building, there's 3 phases on the second floor and 3 phases on the first floor. And then there's a phase to renovate the old office area. So that's 7 phases, approximately 16 weeks apiece. This has to be worked out in more detail, but it kind of displays the planning that's going on right now. And this planning also includes, obviously, the school administration to keep the school running during all these phases. So work will be taking place during the school year, starting fall of 23 until essentially the project would be complete at the end of the summer of 25. So the work that would be taking place likely is going to be on a second shift to get off of the schedule for noise with regard to the school operation. But the areas that we would be working in that phase would be taken out of commission, and those classrooms then would need to be replicated somewhere else, either by using space in those temporary classrooms that are out there north of the Industrial Arts Building or in where the BILA space was. Also, there's some opportunities, I think, to schedule where teachers may not occupy the room when the class is not present. And that will allow us, I think the rooms maybe have 65, 70% utilization with the teacher having each room. And that might need to change during the project where teachers would use rooms, and we would try to get the rooms to be used during every block of the day for actual student classes. So this is details that need to be worked out. But overall, the first phase would be to build the science on the second floor south. And that would allow us to get that science built. The most difficult space to replicate as far as education spaces is the science labs. It's very difficult for us to do that in a temporary situation. So this phasing allows us to use that and get the science labs built first. And then the second phase would be to go to the north of the second floor and renovate the space where the science was and turn it into general purpose classrooms. The third phase then would be the central area on the second floor. And then the fourth phase would be the first floor south. And that would be the area where we would be building the new administrative spaces in phase 4, in addition to some general purpose classrooms. Then phase 5 would be, we would then, at the end of phase 4, we would move the administrative office function, and then we would go up and renovate phase 5, the old office space, into the primarily special education classrooms up there. Then phase 6 would be first floor central, and then phase 7 would be first floor north. So you can see there's a lot more detailed work that needs to occur to execute this schedule, both on the construction design planning and also on the operation of the school to facilitate this happening and keeping the education rolling during this whole process. So that's a summary of phasing. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer those. As a point of interest, I did meet with the city and discuss the life safety aspects of this construction, school occupancy. One of the things they asked for, they want the fire sprinkler system to be operational in each phase when that phase gets occupied. So this schedule provides for that. We would need to get the fire pump in and operable in that first phase of sprinkler system operational by the end of the first phase. So that's in here. One other thing you see in here that's a big part of this project is replacing all the electric gear in the building and all the feeders. And the delivery time on that switch gear is between 12 and 14 months right now. So we will not do that in the summer of 23, but rather, and it will be major league disruption to the school during the summer. We will have to take basically all the power off the school for almost the entire summer. There's plans to bring in a temporary service to operate the limited things that need to operate, which one would be the datacom room that operates the whole district's system. That would have to be powered up. And we would also need power to facilitate the construction to continue during this summer of 24, when we would replace all the electric gear in the building, essentially. Questions?
And what phase is the new construction?
We would build the new construction, I think, in phase 1. We would add the weight room and we would add the enclosed corridor in phase 1. Now that I say that a little hesitantly here because we'll have to get structural steel for those additions, and with a early February bid time, it may not be able to happen in phase 1. It might be phase 2, but the idea would be to execute those additions and the enclosure of the corridor as early as possible. Now, the addition could be built while school's in session. The connecting corridor will have to be, if we can't get it in the summer of 23, it would need to be the summer of 24. I would say at this point, delivery of structural steel, if it doesn't get any better until this project bids, it's likely that we will not have steel to go on June 1 of 23. I will get those after the phasing schedule, though. That's a good point, Joel.
Any questions on any of the plans or information that Jordan, Steve, and Stephanie walked us through?
Just the initial drawing that you showed, that showed the site plan of what was happening and what wasn't happening. It was kind of small for the public that's at home.
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing is, I mean, the auxiliary gym, the auditorium, I mean, we're getting a lot of stuff done here.
We're getting
a lot of stuff done. I just wanted to say that in front. There's a lot of good here. But the auxiliary gym and the auditorium are in a different phase, right?
Correct.
Be another project down the road for us.
Absolutely.
Right? Along with what other area?
Connecting
building, the secondary commons, and moving the media center. So, Rob, just to confirm what you're saying, the full scope of everything was a number that was triple the available funds that the district had to spend. So when we would have last walked through this project, the direction of the board was first and foremost priority is to improve the quality of educational space in the building. We also needed to enclose that corridor because it unifies the two buildings, and then fitness room was a dire need because we're taking that space through the air quality project. So those became the highest priority functions. Those fit within the available budget that we have. That does mean we cannot construct the auxiliary gym or performing arts center. I believe Steve has some additional comment to weigh in.
Can I jump in? We have a side of the building that we've been calling non-renovation side. That's the gymnasium, the cafeteria, the swimming pool. That is not entirely true that that's not renovation. There's fire alarm replacement throughout that. There's door hardware replacement throughout that. There's plumbing, piping replacement throughout that area. So there's a lot of infrastructure that's happening there, even though rooms aren't necessarily being renovated. I just wanted to point that out.
Then preparations.
And all exterior windows too is in the entire building, not just in the renovated space.
Thank you, Tim.
The fire alarm system is a replacement throughout. There's a considerable amount of door hardware changes throughout the building as well. So there is upgrade elsewhere in the facility.
Thank you.
What other questions?
Well, that also includes access control on the entire perimeter of the building with a secure protocol for that. So that is in the entire building, not just in the renovation.
So I have a question, and maybe it just needs to be more for clarification. So when going through it, we've got an area for special education, and then our nurse is going to be in the middle of that area. Can that be elaborated a little bit?
Steve, do you want to?
Yes, if we can bring up that plan. It's not in the middle of that area. It's adjacent, and the access, the doors to those areas are completely separate. We would need to bring up one of the plans, but no, it's not as if you are going through the special ed suite in order to get to the school nurse. That is not the case.
The school nurse stays where that current footprint already is located.
It's access from a corridor. Just thank you, Jordan.
You're welcome.
Can you use your cursor too a little, Jordan, to kind of show where the entrance to the school nurse suite is off the corridor?
Yep. I'm zoomed in on the presentation, so it's a little fuzzy, but okay. So now
that's good.
We're kind of looking at the original admin side. It's kind of this pinkish orange square
is the
here.
School nurse with the door from the corridor.
Yeah, we got access. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then the Beck and BD entrances are really from the vestibules at the north and south. So there's not a cross traffic. There's not cross traffic in that area.
And this is just our school nurse. So where is right now we have an agreement with Eagle View. So where is Eagle View going? In that same little red area?
No.
No.
No, that's for a future discussion for us to have once we get farther along in our plans.
Okay.
About what their location is. Our primary need was to meet the needs of our students and our teachers. And
right.
Then when we see what we have left, if there's an area in the building that we could repurpose, then we will. But at this point, we've had the discussion with them. It could be also something that's outside the building,
Okay.
But no.
Okay. And then my other thing was in the presentation, there's a lot of glass. And I guess that concerns me that everything is glass from a safety point of view. Has that been discussed? I'm sure it has. I'm just not on that committee. But looking at it, I like the natural light, but from a parent standpoint and a board member standpoint, there's a lot of glass. So I immediately think safety.
So We started with a lot more glass. We pulled it back to respond to some of those safety and control components. So the glass is strategically placed in locations where there's a benefit for visual control over the space where the glass is, or to create awareness of that space. So you see a lot of glass at the entry into the media center. Right now is a pair of 6-foot doors on one end and a tiny little corridor and a pair of, 2 pairs of doors at the other end. It's really hard just for connection to understand that that's there. So it becomes kind of a heart of the building, and we're trying to create more of just a visual and sensory awareness that that's there. Some of the other glass is in locations for visual control or openness, or also to create opportunities for natural light to permeate a little deeper in the building. One big issue that we've fought all along is the primary corridor circulation route is the perimeter of the building, which is where all the exterior walls are that have all the windows to the outside world, and we're just trying to get some borrowed light inward so that some of those classrooms can get some natural light where they otherwise are kind of dark and hidden. So it's strategic.
Is the comment about exterior glass or interior?
Interior.
Both, really.
Actually,
I mean, like the corridor, it's a wall on one side, all glass on the other. And then interior, breaking up classrooms is all glass. I wasn't sure what, from a safety standpoint, if that has been looked at.
Yes, and I would just reel back real quick. The division between classrooms is not all glass. So it's there are windows in certain locations to help, like I said, either visual control or views through a space. Jordan, I don't know if you wanted to speak to any of these, or Steve.
Is the question about safety a concern about people being injured by broken glass or by intruders and the issues related to that?
Well, I texted Annika during the discussion, Tim, the initial thing that came through my head is it's nice that everything's open in that new main office area, but all it would take would be a couple of shots, I would guess, to shatter those things if they weren't bulletproof. So that's what comes to my mind, given the life and time. It stinks that that's where we're at, but you're surrounding yourself and making it ostensibly a safer place and a more open place, but does that invite trouble unless we protect ourselves? That's where I was coming from, especially with the main entrance.
And I was thinking run, hide, fight. You can't hide in a room full of glass.
Yeah, I would say classrooms, primary classrooms, they are not full glass. It's a door with side light for view in and view out for control. So part of this is when you create opportunities for vision between the glass and the corridor, there's more supervision eyes on the corridor space from the staff that's in those rooms. You don't want a whole wall that's open, but we do want more than just a narrow slit of glass for that visual control. In the secure entry areas, there's several schools of thought on how to do this. We've done everything from very hardened secure entries, which are still glassy, but they use, we typically use ballistic film on the glass, so you can't just shoot through it. Typically those ballistic films have have different ratings for their ballistic resistance. The secure windows that we use for transaction are hardened, so you can't shoot through those as well. The hardware, we provide locking mechanisms for that additional heightened safety and security. We typically do not ballistically harden glass everywhere in the building, and that's more from the standpoint of understanding where most disruptions tend to germinate from, which is typically somebody either starts trouble from the main entry, they're already in secure entry zone, we have the ability to contain and lock them there. They can't get any further. When we look at other events, it really comes down to a case of making sure you honor the protocols of being able to lock doors appropriately throughout the building and control the access adequately. Also, by improvements with our systems within the building, you should have better abilities to monitor and understand where trouble happens when it does happen, which should be an improvement for the building. One thing that is also difficult with this building is it's a lot of common space. There's corridors everywhere, and just getting better cameras and eyesights on where things are. By inverting some of that flow with these collaboration zones, that does give us more visual control and super those spaces, so that we should be able to handle these issues pop up.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, because really with school security, it's how far do you want to go, and how far do you go before it starts looking like a prison?
Sure.
And you have to navigate that carefully. You really do.
Absolutely.
And I also figured cost at some point in time was a concern as well.
It does.
But
Yeah.
you know, I'm glad you started it, but that's where I was coming from, was and so I feel more comfortable given the ballistics explanation that you just gave.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
But a lot of this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember a lot of the staff input at the very, very beginning was more light.
mhm.
Yeah.
There's those internal
Oh, yeah.
hallways felt,
Well,
It's a dungeon.
yeah.
I mean, you walk down the middle hallways, it's a dungeon, but at some point, you gotta outweigh safety and dungeon. I mean, it
I
just might not be feasible.
Joel stated it correctly. There was a lot of requests. Can we get more light? Can we get more light? There was more glass in this, and teachers started to ask if we could scale it back because of the security concern. And we feel like, with working with Corey and other building staff, I think we've kind of gotten this to a spot where we feel like it's manageable, both from the supervision as well as just feeling secure in your own teaching space.
Sure.
Collaboration zones are meant to be a little bit more open when we talk about some of our small group spaces. That is purposeful because often students get sent there for private or small group work where they're not supervised, and we need that visibility in there just to make sure that those kids aren't up to no good in that particular space.
And I appreciate that explanation.
And I think the teachers at Edstone and Aldo who have the collaboration spaces now would definitely agree with what you're saying, because I've seen it by my own eyes. It's not easy to watch what's going on in the collaboration spaces, and yet you still have them to be able to have that opportunity. But so, and some teachers too, I've seen put things up over their windows if they don't want to be looked at or whatever. And I don't know how, that goes with
walls and
each
windows are
building.
non-stick, so
Yeah.
nobody can tape anything up,
Yeah,
because that
so,
just ruins the architecture.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying. I mean, that has been done too.
Sorry.
So, one, just to restate, and I think this is just saying, Tim, what you said earlier, but for a student who's in 6th grade right now, all of this should be done before they show up at the building for 9th grade. And for a student who's entering 9th grade right now, their senior year shouldn't be disrupted with any construction.
Minimal
Yes.
disruption.
No, they should have disruption during their 10th grade year and their 11th grade year. But their 9th grade should have none, and their 12th grade should have none.
Yeah, like I said, I think we can really not impact the education process significantly here through proper planning and mitigating those issues. Like, for instance, I expect that we'll be working from like a shift from 4 o'clock till midnight for almost the entire project. So we'll be off shift of when the students are there. So the noise shouldn't be an issue. Yes, we'll have to tighter schedule the rooms, and some of the rooms won't be as convenient, but I think we're going to have a room for every class, and every class will be held. And like I said, the science, we're not going to put them in a position where we're compromising on the lab space available. You know, we're going to build the new labs first and tear the old ones out after. So there should be no degradation in that ability to run whatever kind of experiments are proper for their class.
For the ninth graders now, yes, they get the excitement of graduating their senior year in a new space.
Yes, but they will have new science labs for most of their high school.
Correct.
The education, as Tim said, isn't going to suffer, and all of the classes will be there. Just certain wings will be shut down for those 2 years.
Yeah, and I think
Right.
Tim alluded to this. It's really hard to wrap your head around, but the way you tend to teach in a building is going to be different for the next couple of years. Just because we have to utilize every space 100% of the time, 70 or 60% of the
Sure.
time.
But what comes out the other side looks fantastic.
Well, the other thing is we explored, there was consideration that you might have to rent temporary class space in a pod that's brought on campus to make this happen, and just through district staff and Tim putting their heads together, they've got this figured out where it can happen, where you don't have to incur that additional expense for those type of facilities. You do have the space to make this work.
Yeah, no more than you currently have. Our intention would be to keep those rented classrooms on the north of the industrial arts, I think, through this project at least, but no additional classrooms. If you had to replace the classrooms we're taking out and we're not able to do any of the things I described, it's a $2 million bill. I already priced that, and we can't afford to throw that money away. So we got to be creative in our planning, both from an execution, a construction standpoint, and operation of the school. I think we can mitigate that.
My last question was, by the new fitness edition, it looks like there's grassy space. Was it discussed about parking back in there that could be utilized for softball and baseball fields and the entrance, so that students weren't parking in the front and walking all the way back?
Yep. Really, there's very minimal site disruption on this project. With the new main entry kind of being seen as the plaza entry, we are doing some ADA accessibility just to make that path from student parking to building accessible route. This zone through here has to get repaved because the fire department does not have access around the building, and they're making us improve that area to ensure that they can get a fire truck back. They also said that this area has to remain free and clear because that's the other route for the fire truck to come back. We did not incorporate any additional improvement back around the back of the building. Our understanding as well is that the majority of students who use this weight fitness area predominantly come from the inside of the building, from the locker rooms. There will be a little bit of traffic that comes out the doors in this zone for getting out for any kind of track or field practices. There is access still through these pathways for the softball and out for baseball as well.
I guess the point blank answer the question, no, we didn't add any parking back there for softball or for the weight room proper. I think you'd want to think about that pretty hard because there's a lot of pedestrian traffic back there. And I think you'd want to be careful on putting a lot of auto traffic down there in pretty tight quarters and a lot of blind corners to have what would be a relatively limited number of parking spots anyway. I mean, where it would be located potentially would be where we have our construction trailers right now. I mean, that would be the only place you could do it, and it would be relatively limited.
You'd have to charge rent for those stalls because they'd be fighting for them.
There is a lot of pedestrian traffic back there, and I would think you may want to keep your vehicles out of there generally.
One other thought that goes along with that, the city is being somewhat gracious to us in that you've got a 250,000 square foot building with probably equally that much square, if not more of that square foot in paved surface, and you have no stormwater retention system. So we do have to do a little bit of minor stormwater improvement to account for the new addition that's being put on the building, which is very minor. But if we start to add a lot more hard surface on campus, they're gonna make you do a retention pond likely, because you're as they say, you're burdening the area water drainage pathways, and I think it's causing some concerns from the city standpoint. So we're trying to touch light.
While you bring up parking, the parking that currently is at the front entrance,
Yes.
what would that be used for if the front entrance is now going to be where the cafeteria is? We have quite a bit of parking there.
Yeah, that still remains as parking. The bus drop lane still remains the bus drop lane on the east side of the building. Student and parent drop off still remains on the south. Likely what will happen is visitor parking stalls move to the south. So we have some visitor parking right outside the south entry, but that east lot and what continues around the IA building will all just remain as parking.
Yeah, I believe that's almost all faculty parking
Yes.
now. I don't think there's any other, like no student parking in there at all that I'm aware of. Only visitors, and they're very limited, like 6 or 7 spots maybe.
Faculty parking, yes.
I can speak just a little bit of that. I met with high school principals, and we were talking about how to mark the parking lot to distinguish where the staff parking lot is compared to the students. You know, there's limitations on what color spots you can use, but there is a way that we could do something so kids would know those are, you pull in, you know, I'll just say purple. That's a purple spot. We know that's a staff spot, right? And so we are having discussions for a year from now or whenever about to make it a little bit easier to know where staff parking is compared to student parking.
I just wasn't sure, since if that's where the special ed wing is going to be, if that entrance there was going to be reserved for something else, or if that was still going to be bus and parking.
Yeah, so bus lane will still be there.
Okay.
Yep. Other questions? Steve, Jordan, or Tim, any other thoughts before we close out?
No, thank you, John.
None here.
All right, well, I think it's an exciting project. It's really taking shape. Over the next few weeks, we will start to see those images that were, as Stephanie described, kind of tone on tone. They're going to start to take life and color, and by the time we look at our next deadline, which is we call the end of design development, we'll actually likely be able to do a kind of a virtual, almost video, pre-recorded walkthrough of the inside of the building, which will be fun for you guys to see and experience. So that'll be cool.
Thank you all for your time.
Yeah, for sure. Great.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Nothing we need there, right there. Okay. All right. Move on in the agenda to activities update.
just asked to come in and kind of give you guys an update. I did this a few times last year. So just to give you an idea on some of the successes we had this last year. We had 194 student athletes who were recognized as either all conference, academic all conference, or all state or academic all state. So I think actually I wanted to hit 200 this year because we were at 196 last year. So what hurt us is our conference has a rule that sophomores aren't eligible for academic all conference. Otherwise we would have crushed it. But it is what it is. So, but just to give you on the academic side of things, our volleyball, girls cross country, girls swim, boys golf, football cheer, boys cross country, and baseball all met the state standard for state academic achievement awards, which is very impressive. And then they also have a distinguished category, which is your team GPA is 3.25 or higher. And on that one, our softball, girls soccer, and girls golf qualified for those awards as well. Just a few highlights for the year. Our football team made the playoffs for the first time in quite a while, which was very exciting. It was a very fun year. We did have 2 athletes who received some high recognition. Bryant Williams was the district offensive MVP, and Julian Perez Hall was the offensive lineman of the year for our district. And then we also had 3 kids make All-State, those 2, and then Julius Harris also was on the All-State team. We also had a state qualifier in cross country, and our boys golf team did outstanding. I mean, they ended up 4th state. I think they were 1 shot out of getting the trophy, but they had a great season as well. Then that kind of got it going a little bit, I guess you could say. Fall rolled into winter, and we had a great winter season. We had a state qualifier in wrestling. Our boys basketball team, as you all know, qualified for state, which was very exciting. So that was another that kind of shocked the world a little bit there, I think, and surprised some people. And then in the spring, we had a great spring. The boys tennis team and girls tennis team were both conference champs. Boys track qualified some more kids for state this past year than they have in the previous 3 or 4 seasons, which was great to see. And our girls track team had 2 relays and then 3 individuals qualify, which again is much better than what we've been doing in the past. So great things there. And then girls golf, we had another state qualifier in Lauren Briggs. She was also the conference golfer of the year. She did an outstanding job. Then rolled into the summer, and baseball and softball both had outstanding seasons. The boys were the conference champs, and our girls qualified for the state softball tournament first time in 2011, I think. Does that sound right? So they had great seasons. Brock Dangler was the conference player of the year as well. And then for the season for our boys golf team, we did something a little bit different. We play fall golf. Everybody else in our conference plays spring golf. But if we short ourselves a tournament in the fall, they'll give us 1 tournament in the spring. So we did that this last year so we could play in our conference tournament, and we won the boys conference golf tournament as well. So conference champs this year were boys golf, boys basketball, boys and girls tennis, girls soccer, and baseball. So overall, I think it was a real successful year. The thing that probably more proud of in that aspect is just the academic achievements of our student athletes. I mean, like I said, we had a lot more kids on those teams, but our conference, you have to be a junior or senior to qualify for the academic all-conference stuff. Otherwise, that number would be a lot higher. Things we got going on now, or just a little bit about last year. I don't know if you guys got a chance to go out and see any of our bands or choirs or orchestras or the play or the musical. They all had great years as well. I enjoyed the musical a great deal. It's fun to get out there and see some of the gifts some of our students have that you don't realize. I had a couple young ladies I had in class who had unbelievable singing voices, and I had no idea. So if you get a chance, I think I I know this summer they did a drama camp for the first time in a long time, and they're getting that stuff rolling. I think they're doing the Lion King this year, which I know they've already been working towards and starting and getting going that way. So good things going on there. And if you get a chance, I really mean, if you get a chance to go watch some of our band or orchestra, please do so. They're fun, they're entertaining, and those kids work hard at it, and a lot of those kids are athletes as well. So it's good to see we have a bunch of well-rounded young men and women in our school district. So, but yeah, band camp started this week. Football camps going, or football started practice. All of our fall sports are getting going. Right now on August 18th, we have our fall sports kickoff down at Bracewell. We will introduce all the teams, and the football team will have an open practice. Normally in the past, they scrimmage right after that. Unable to do that this year because we hosted the scrimmage with West Burlington last year. So this year's West Burlington's turn to host. So our first football scrimmage will be then the 19th.
What was the times of both those? Thursday night, what time is it?
Thursday night at 5, and then Friday night is at 7.
7. Okay.
So yeah, we're just getting things rolling again. So anybody have any questions or anything for me?
I was just curious because I was invited to Morgan Schroeder's signing today,
Yeah.
and it just got me thinking, how many kids in this calendar year, and of course, I have a rough number because
Yeah.
I'm close to a lot of them, but how many kids are going on and parlaying high school success into opportunities at the next level?
And I'm guessing off the top of my head right now too, because I wouldn't have an exact number, but I'm guessing the number's close to 15. 15 student athletes who are going to continue playing on next year. So
And getting some of their educations paid for. And
yeah,
getting opportunities to represent Burlington. I mean, it's,
yeah.
that's pretty neat. I mean, the number only seems to be getting higher and higher, which
Right.
is a pretty cool thing as a coach that
Yeah, no,
you
it's,
see happening.
we had the graduating senior class was an outstanding class academically, athletically, just a great group all around. So, but junior class and the classes behind them I have confidence in them as well. So.
Jay, how do our participation numbers look for in the fall? Did you say that when I stepped out?
So no, our numbers right now for the fall, volleyball 9 through 12 is around 40, I believe. Football right now is busting at the seams. They had 84 the other day, which is
9 to 12?
9 to 12. It was 84, yeah. So that was really good. Boys cross country, I believe today's the first day of practice, so I didn't get a chance to see everything, but I do know those two numbers off the top of my head just because my daughter's on one team. But no, boys, I'm thinking they'll be around 15. Girls' numbers are much improved from last year. I'm thinking they're going to have enough to fill a varsity roster this year. So
I know we talked about that in the past, but that's something from a report standpoint we want to share with you too, because we believe the participation numbers are just as important. We love to see the success, but we definitely want to see more kids out or something.
Yes.
So we want to really talk about that.
Ian's playing golf this year. What are those numbers like? So I want to know if he's going to play or not.
I think they're around 10.
Yeah.
So, one thing I failed to mention is we are bringing our dance team back. When I first got hired, our dance coach resigned. She didn't like, no, just kidding. No, she was, her family was expanding, so she felt it was her time to step aside. So we've advertised it the last 2 years and had 0 applicants. So we advertised again this year. I actually had some young ladies at the high school who would ask me about it, and I'm like, I'd love to bring it back. We got to find someone to steer the ship, and we found somebody this year, so I am excited about that. They're having their tryouts later on this week. So I don't know what kind of numbers we're looking at or anything like that, but it's good to see that coming back too, get more kids involved. So
Who is the dance coach?
Her name,
Michaela Sherwood?
Yeah, Lily Sherwood, yeah.
Yep. And she was a Burlington graduate.
Yeah, she was.
So that's nice to have
Yes.
a hometown
Yep.
girl back coaching
Yep.
the dance team.
Yeah, so excited about that. So should be
Yeah.
Should be hopefully ready to roll by the end of the football season, and if not, have some performances of basketball games and stuff
Sure.
like that, so.
I'm just shocked with all of the success this year that we couldn't get anybody as a finalist for the Hawkeyes Athletes of the Year, but that's their issue, not ours. So, any other questions for Mr. Allen? All right, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
All right, we'll move ahead to Board Policy 505.5, Graduation Requirements, second reading.
Good evening. This is second reading of the first reading that you had at your last meeting to remove the requirement requiring all students to take the math topics, freshman math topics class, or also known as data and measurement class. Class still remains as an elective option and would still count for credit for math, but no longer required for everybody if you approve tonight.
Well, I'll make the motion that we approve the second reading of the policy 505.5.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So like you said, even though we're removing the requirement, the class is still an option to
Class is
take?
still an option to take, and it still counts as a math credit if students have taken it or take it in the future. It still counts as as one of the math credits. So every student's required to take algebra at a minimum. Then we typically would want to see a student take geometry, and then that's 4 credits, 2 credits per class. Students are required to have 6 credits. So they still have to take at least another 2 more trimesters in addition to those others. So this could count towards those 2 others if they've already taken it or if they choose to take it in the future.
Perfect.
Shouldn't put anybody behind.
All right, seeing no discussion, all in favor of approving the second reading of Board Policy 505.5, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion passes. Next, the District Developed Service Delivery Plan for Special Education, the DDSDPFSE, right? Isn't that how you?
We do call it the DDSDP. That is kind of.
Is it really?
Okay. We just stop at DDSDP though. So this is a state required plan for every district to have. It has to be reviewed and revised every 5 years. So ours was due this year. There's a process that's outlined in guidance from the state and in code for who and how that gets done. The committee was formed. The board approved that a few months ago. Mrs. Hatteberg and Mrs. Holzen, as the curriculum committee, sat on that committee as well. The plan went through the committee process, was posted for public comment. We had no public comment. No, I take that back. We had a couple teacher comments, and we were able to be responsive to those. And then it had to be approved by Great Prairie AEA, and it was approved by them earlier on August 1st. We got the approval from them. So the final step is our local board's approval, which I would ask you to consider at this time.
Is there a motion to approve the DDSD?
I move to approve.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion passes. Next, Mr. Reynolds, the IASB legislative priorities.
Yes, sir. The previous meeting, the legislative priorities were distributed to the board. The board chose to review those and send their recommendations to Director Kendall to review and summarize. He has since done so and sent the 4 priorities as determined by the board to be mental health, teacher recruitment and licensure, supplemental state aid, and school funding policy in that order. So asking the board to approve those priorities as summarized by Director Kendall.
Is there discussion? I was just looking through, he had texted me about those when he said he wasn't gonna be able to come, so, but that's it, so. Any discussion? Or is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on approving these 4?
I was slightly disappointed that school safety was not an option. I mean, like, we couldn't even choose from it. It is not an option, and that struck me as very odd. I was really concerned that public school safety is not one of the
Well, that was at the
IASB.
top, right? But then it wasn't one of the number choices?
Correct.
Because I had sent that and he goes, nope, I need a number.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree, it was,
I think this has been in place for quite a long time, hasn't it, the same priorities,
They
right?
always, yes, pretty much the same ones, and they always tell you, and some districts do, you have the opportunity to write your own priority and submit.
But this is like, anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's just my comment. I was shocked that this day and age it wasn't on there.
Well, if you would like to be the representative at the conference next fall, I can arrange it.
Let's get this one approved, and and then we'll worry about Deb retaining her title for that, but we're passing it on. Any other discussion on these four? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the slate as presented of mental health, teacher recruitment, licensure, supplemental state aid, and school funding policy, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion passes. That is it. We will move into board communications. Director
I guess the only thing I want to do is to say thank you again to Bray and to Tim for presenting tonight to get us up to speed on what's been going on. And once again, congratulations to the kids who keep working, and you know, those kids are involved in sports and music and all those activities. It serves them well. It serves them well. So that's all.
I just want to thank all the staff and community members that have come together this week to be there for our students that might be struggling with what happened, giving of their time to be there for our students. It's been neat having conversations with staff members and seeing all of the group things going on with administrators and teachers, and I don't know, I feel like this renewed sense of team almost between like the buildings and groups together moving forward. It's just kind of like a positive energy, so.
I erroneously forgot, unlike the other 6 at the last meeting, to welcome you, Mr. Scott. So I retroactively welcome you
Oh, okay.
to our district officially. Welcome. Yeah, I too echo Christy's sentiments. Obviously, it's cliche, but what we can offer right now is thoughts and prayers to the family and the friends of the student who was taken from us. I know that my son, who is a year older, didn't know him, but it affects him because he knew of it. And so, the ripple effect goes probably even a lot farther than we even think about. Incredible presentation tonight. So being late to this party, but when November came and we were elected, this was cool to see all of the renderings. And I know we've seen them before, but now that they start to talk in a little more immediacy about it all coming together. And I think Ian's going to miss it by a year, but I know my daughter Aubrey's going to get it when she's a freshman, and that's pretty cool. So I just wanted to say what an incredible presentation, and thanks to the guys and gals from Bray and Carly Nelson for continuing to work so hard. And then just on a personal note, somebody on this week's report, good friend of mine, leaving the district, I wanted to congratulate Brock Schnaden. Just a tremendous guy. He's going to be a loss on 2 fronts for this district, but I know he's comfortable with the decision. I told him, I said I was going to talk about my friend tonight. My son won't get a chance to play for him, but our daughters, Joel and my daughter, will get to play for him. So he's going to the the private sector, so to speak. So 11 years took over for me, believe it or not. I was the head coach for 10 and 11, and then he took over in 12 and had been there ever since. You don't get varsity coaches that typically stick around for a decade plus. And so congratulations to Brock for his new endeavors, and we'll miss you, but our loss is certainly Danville's gain. So best of luck.
I'll piggyback. I want to thank all the coaching staff across the board. We've had some that have retired lots of seasons in our minutes over the last couple of months. You know, it takes a special person to be a coach. That's a lot of time away from your family, working with students, and you know, it's great, especially hearing that we had 194 students that were affected by our current coaching staff is incredible. So I'm excited. I hope we get to Mr. Huff's 200 next year. That would be a great goal for all of us to have. Also want to remind people that online registration is now closed, but if you need to register your child, you can contact the building in which your child will be attending school so that you can get them registered before open house, because they do not want to do that at open house. So try to do it beforehand if you can. And my condolences to the student and their family and friends. And that is all I have.
All right, my only comments are really, for the board at least, this is the calm before the storm. You know, for us, this was a pretty easy meeting. We got to sit here and talk about 3-4 years from now and a beautiful high school, all the while the administration are pulling their hair out, getting everything ready for school to start here soon. So, so this is great for us, and they're sitting here wishing we would just end so they can go back and continue doing work, getting ready for school to start. So we will go ahead and do that, but we appreciate the work you guys are doing to get everything started for the school year, and really just looking forward to getting into what we do, which is educate
Can I make
students.
just one final comment?
Sure.
I echo the thoughts that have been said about what's going on with families and the young man. I would tell you that this staff, I don't want to get emotional, boy, just stepped up. I mean, it wasn't a phone call, there wasn't a text message I didn't make, that somebody didn't answer me within seconds. And I apologize for getting emotional, guy. It was amazing to see what strength of your staff, our staff that we have here, right? They were ready to step up in the moment, and it was a real pleasure to work with them. That's all I wanted to say.
Great.
That's great.
All right.
So
Seeing,
move.
Second.
I haven't asked yet. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So
All right.
Second.
Second. We are adjourned. Thank you.